But my real MVP vote, guys, it's the most valuable player to all the other teams. It's Summit, baby. Summit is the most valuable player to the LCS, giving you free gold at to the 2.5 minute mark.
Now, here's your hosts, the League Dad, Kevin, Mitchell, and Alistair.
What's up, gamers, and welcome to another episode of the All In Podcast. I am the League Dad, and as always, I've got my friends, my boys, and my co-hosts. We've got Kevin, Mitchell, and Alistair, and we're here to talk about all things LCS and League of Legends, and it's all set in stone. You know, the regular season is done. It's time for playoffs. A lot of crazy things happening, especially from the predictions and guesses that we made from last week. So we're going to dive right into all of that. Let me just kick it off. Your initial thoughts, surprises. Kevin was the only one that didn't believe in Team Liquid, and he was right. I guess he knows his team better than everyone else. And me as a 100 Thieves Boomer fan, look, they went 5-0 this weekend. So lots of surprising, interesting things. But let me get your first thoughts on all the action this weekend.
Yeah, first thoughts on all the actions. All tiebreakers were great. More meaningful games are just really fun like that. And the bottom slash middle of the pack for top six, like it was just a very hype time. Had a lot of fun tiebreakers. My only comment I think would be that I was very surprised 100 Thieves did as well as they did, and I was surprised EG didn't do as well, even while sick. I thought they would have won at least one. So that's unfortunate, but I mean they're both in playoffs, so
Yeah.
I mean, the 100 Thieves double lift miracle run is still possible. I
It's
mean,
crazy.
I said they were gonna end third at the beginning. They
True.
pulled it off. I'm surprised, but I mean, good for them.
Yeah, my all-in's not looking so crazy anymore, guys, huh?
Yeah, it's not.
Hope you think
boy.
yours is. And look at mine.
Yeah, I mean, Golden Guardians is pretty doomed. I think that's also a bit of surprise. Like, they actually, everyone was saying, like, this is the split that Golden Guardians is gonna, like, break their curse. And if you don't know where the curse is, they've never gotten more than 9 wins in a split. They've always been 9-9, never had a winning record, always an even or below record. And everyone was certain it was gonna happen this split. It did not. They lost 3 games in a row at the end, one of them to Dignitas to continue the curse. Golden Guardians, unfortunately, could not make a winning record this split. It's so crazy to me.
Yeah. I just want to point out, because I want to talk about a little bit about 100 Thieves because it was surprising, I think, for a lot of people. Maybe not Mitchell, he always believed. And I've always kind of secretly rooted for the Boomers. That's no secret. But I do want to talk a little bit about Double Lift because why not, right? It's LCS, face of the LCS. This guy had 46 kills this weekend. I mean, he was popping off. I mean, he even said, I think, when they were asking him about, why they kept winning, and he was like, hey, I'm giving you guys a freebie. Don't target ban me. He's like, I could play everything, and I was laughing a little bit because there are some champs like that he couldn't play during certain metas, Vladimir, but either way, I think he's been performing like a true veteran GOAT of the game, right? Like maybe not the best overall ADC because you got, Berserker and Prince maybe, and Prince maybe, more recently hasn't been performing as well. But to me, he's been coming in clutch just when he needs to, and that signals to me a veteran guy who knows how to step up and perform when he needs to. But just real briefly, because this was the only undefeated team this past Super Week, let's dive into them a little bit more. What did you think of their play? Is it teams just not banning correctly in the drafts? Because we talked about their drafts and what they needed to do, and it seemed like they were able to kind of accomplish, what they wanted in drafts, get what they were comfortable with, and that seemed to do really well for them. Or do you think it's other issues? So let's talk about 100 Thieves a little bit and your thoughts on them.
Yeah, I was pretty impressed by them. We usually give the narrative, they just sit back and wait. But this time around, I think they did pretty well. There were some sit back and wait games, but
Yeah, for sure.
closers on form. Double F played really exceptional in some of those games. Like it felt like he already thought it was playoffs, basically, because like the tiebreaks in a way was sort of a playoffs situation. High pressure. He did not miss a beat for the most part. Um, other than their laning phases still being a little sketchy, which is concerning. Like this team showed a lot of poise and they knew how to wait for mistakes, but also make opportunities, which is character growth. But oh my lord, some of those early games were pretty atrocious.
Yeah.
So I am a little concerned if they represent us internationally, but it's a little less doomer than last year's the 100 Thieves with Abadage. So that's not really saying much, but that's my thoughts.
Yeah.
Overall, I mean, I think it's cool narrative going in. There were definitely some mistakes in the early game is a problem. As for Double Lift, I think he played very well aside from some certain Kaisa plays. Um, but I think that they kind of got saved by the meta change. I think that's really what put them into gear. Closer feels fully engaged, which feels like that's putting Bjergsen playing the game more because he can kind of just do what he wants. It feels like he just wants to do in every game. It's more of a double lift meta. It feels like, and Tenacity can kind of just chill, for the most part, like playing stuff like Gragas, Scion. Like it feels like they've found their niche. So I'm curious what they're actually going to see against the higher ranked teams because to be fair, they did go 5-0, but it was a fairly easy schedule, all things considered. So
Yeah, I think 100 Thieves played really well, obviously, but I mean, I think a lot of the reasons why they won is like, yeah, the target bans against Doublelift, they don't really make sense a ton. I think like the Zeri is completely fallen off. I don't think you need to ban that, especially if you do Zeri Lulu. I think Zeri Annie is a bit more scary, but then you should ban the Annie, right? Um, I also feel like banning the Zaya part of the Zaya Rakan is interesting. Zaya is obviously very strong, but it feels like, both Buzio Tenacity, they can play two champions. Like Buzio's like maybe Rakan and maybe Thresh or Nautilus. And then Tenacity, it's been just kind of Scion and Gragas. He hasn't been forcing anything else. So honestly, Doublelift saying that you should not target ban him is kind of a giveaway. It is a
Yeah.
freebie.
It is.
It's like if teams did continue to target ban him, it's such a free draft for them because it was never the issue was his champion pool. Um, I also think the gameplay wise is you saw it start with Immortals where they just threw everything to kill Doublelift, and then you kind of see that in the other games too. People tunnel way too hard trying to kill him, and when he's playing something like Kaisa, it's like exactly what he wants. You like take cleanse, you can outplay things, flash ulti, and all of a sudden the team fight's like super easy for them to play for the rest of the team. Like if no one's targeting you, Closer and Bjergsen, they all can get their like
That's
stuff
right.
off. They can get their CC off. Like there's so many fights where they're tunneling to get onto double lift, and Bjergsen's on the Sandra, and he gets like massive combos,
Mm-hmm.
super easy, super free. They're just coming into them. So it's just like the people playing. This is the double lift effect in LCS, right? He's
It
had this
is.
for years. Like people come in, they look great, like they'll be beating all the other teams, and they play against double lift, and they completely shit themselves in lane. Like this was a Cody Sun thing. This was a sneaky thing. Like people just completely poop themselves in lane, and then you get into team fights. Everybody's just like, gotta kill Double F. Gotta get at this guy. It's the Faker effect. It's like, it's so funny that it happens year after year, and it's never a winning strategy because you have to pay attention to the rest of the team. Double plays way too consistently for you to like tilt him by targeting him all the time, right? So I think that's a big deal. Also, I think for a lot of these specific 100 Thieves games, I mean, they relied a lot on Scion, and I thought it was funny. They like 100 Thieves, they did the Scion cheese, the BDS strat in
Yeah.
game one against Immortals, right? And everybody after that, like you could see, they all rushed down to bot lane to protect against the Scion like cheese invade, and it just gave the level one like such easy breathing room. They have like 100 Thieves had three like predicted quadrants that they could work with in the level one, and I thought it was so funny that like people were so scared of the Scion cheese. Like just throw a ward and walk away. Like you don't have to all five be down there. Um, So everybody's just getting in their own heads from this
Yeah.
double lift stuff. Like honestly, they're all psyching themselves out. It's actually hilarious.
Yeah. I think all of the factors that you mentioned, they're all kind of lining up. The meta change, closer getting to play more carry type junglers, and then if Doublelift is popping off and he becomes that threat, which he has been. Like yes, his laning hasn't been great, but for the most part, he's doing what he's supposed to do. He's not carelessly dying. I mean, he does sometimes, but when that happens, when the attention is on him, Bjergsen may not be the best right now as far as his laning goes, but he still knows how to team fight when the pressure's not on him. I feel like he does perfect when he's kind of a secondary like carry or like not paying attention. Same when he plays as Zillion. Yes, they're more supportive type champions, but when they're focusing Doublelift, you just said it best, Mitchell. He's getting in there, and both him and Closer can just clean up shop. So there were a couple of fights where I'm like, oh great, Doublelift dies, but forget about that. They're still in there doing so much damage to the other team, and it's like you forget there are other carries on this team that can do that. And then you just top in Buzio, who he made some pretty good engages on Rakan, and then Tenacity. If you just pick a Scion or even his Gragas, although I will say like that game against EG where JoJo was just his positioning on Vygar was so bad. It made Tenacity look like a god, honestly. But look, all I'm saying is that Tenacity, if you don't need to put him on a carry champ, put him on something like a tank, which seems to be kind of going forward. That seems to kind of be the meta. And so I think it does perfectly suit them. And it's just the personnel that they have. I think they have great chances. As you can see, I'm very excited because I do think that this is something that could be spicy moving forward. But
Well, I have some comments. I think there's some really easy adjustments that enemy teams can make that um, can make it really hard for 100 Thieves to continue doing what they're doing. So, for example, if you take EG and CLG, the tiebreaker games,
mhm.
Tenacity got Scion both games, and I think some people see this as a nitpick. I see it as actually quite a big deal. Is the Varus builds,
Mm.
they weren't like the full DPS builds. So FBI, I think, or yeah, he had the most egregious build where he went Shield Bow, Ginsu's Bloodthirster, LDR, and then Guardian Angel. And I really think he needs Blade of the Rune King here. Blade of the Rune King, I mean, Scion is one of the champions with the most HP in the game. Closer stacking HP on
Yeah.
Viego. Closer on the vehicle can actually take over Cassante and Sejuani's bodies. So there's like six-ish people where Blade the Rune King is a ton of value. You
Hmm.
normally don't get six champions in a game where your one item has a ton of value. And FBI, I mean, he is just most of these team fights are the Varus is just sitting there free hitting on the Scion forever. And that Scion was not dying, and it was because of the lack of the Blade Rune King. It would have been like thousands and thousands of extra damage that he gotten. Same thing with Luger and the CLG game. I think it's less of a problem because, I mean, his whole team was inting and he was afraid of dying, so he still went the Bloodthirster. But he went Shield Bow, Ginsu's Blade of the Rune King, Bloodthirster. He definitely needed the LDR to do damage, but I mean, I get it. He wanted to live because everybody on his team was inting. But I like those are some really easy things you can adjust, and you can make the Scion like freaking disappear. Like that guy just completely disappears if you build right. If you go the DPS build, so I think those are things to look out for, and then also um, it's happening in other regions. Aatrox is coming back as a top lane. Like Scion is one of the freest matchups for Aatrox. You can't just blind Scion if you're playing against a good Aatrox player. That Aatrox gets a free lane, can totally take over the game. A lot of bruisers in the jungle too, so it's a good Aatrox meta. And then as soon as you start seeing Aatrox, you don't want to blind Scion. All of a sudden, Tenacity is going to be like, well, what's good in Aatrox? I guess I got to play Fiora again, and then now we
No,
have
please
a
no.
Fiora problem, right? So
Please God
these are
no.
the these are the scary things that can start to happen in draft if things start to develop past the tank top meta. Especially you have people like Fudge, right? They're gonna play Aatrox, Camille,
Yeah.
Fiora into your Scion counter, and then all of a sudden you're in a best of five, and you're like, well, I really don't want to blind Scion anymore. It feels really bad, and then you start getting more carry tops instead. So
Yeah.
all these things could develop really easily, really quickly away from the
Yeah.
100 Thieves plan. Yeah.
For sure, definitely. I think there's always things that people can do, and building correctly is a big part of it. I also do think that some teams underperformed that should have gave them way more trouble. I mean, they were struggling in some games and did need to depend on scaling and proper execution of their team fights, which they did. For I'll give them credit. 100 Thieves did team fight well, especially in mid to late game to secure those wins. But you were mentioning Luger and CLG in that game specifically, but I do want to transition to them because they again, when people doubt them, and I'm going to say myself, because I didn't think their schedule looked tough, and they just were hitting them right out the park. They played Team Liquid, who I thought was going to be much better, Golden Guardians, who I thought was going to be much better, and Cloud9. Even though I think Cloud9 kind of threw it away there, that game kind of was over from the beginning, but
Woo.
still. CLG 3 games, I thought they were going to have a real hard time winning, and they came out swinging. So they ended up losing that tiebreaker that you mentioned, 100 Thieves. But for all intents and purposes, they were undefeated up until that tiebreaker. So let's talk about them a little bit. It's like, do we start heaping praise on them and then they start underperforming, or do we just kind of like, I'm going to stay silent because I just want to see, I just want the ether and the universe to balance them out because I cannot predict CLG any which way. So your thoughts on CLG, their play this weekend, and what that maybe means for, their playoff run.
Yeah, maybe hot take. Even though CLG lost to 100 Thieves, I thought they had a more impressive run this weekend. I think that they played against Golden Guardians, which was like, Golden Guardians had to like try to win. They were still a strong team at some point. Liquid was literally on their elimination match, so it was the scariest team for them to face at that point. And then Cloud9 was like dominant. Up to this point, Cloud9 was just winning everything, and they won it pretty convincing. It was like 31 to like 8. So contracts like popped up. I will say as a caveat, I've never seen a 30, like a 20 plus kill game at the point they were in the game still be that close in gold.
Yeah.
Like it felt like they were getting a lot of kills, but they were just only going for kills and picks and not capitalizing on macro plays. But I mean, Contracts was playing out of his mind. So honestly, good for them. So yeah, they lost to 100 Thieves. 100 Thieves played better that game. But guys, 100 Thieves farmed, their 2 biggest wins was like 2 farms on EG who were work from home and sick. Jojo was sick. Like he was so sick he couldn't dodge a Greg assault, like because he was on brain lag. So honestly, 100 Thieves had a really good run and they didn't lose to anyone put in front of them. But for my money, I thought CLG had a more impressive run. Like being able to go 31 to 8 against a C9 like on that form is pretty crazy. Caveat: C9 didn't matter. Like they were locked in, I think, at that point, or they were doing well enough that it didn't matter if they lost. But still, a win's a win.
Yeah, I'd agree. I'd have to say CLG was more impressive than 100 Thieves, mainly again just because strength of schedule. I mean,
Yeah.
only one of them had to play against IMT, right? I'm pretty sure. Like
That's
100
true.
Thieves beat IMT, CLG beat Cloud9. I think there's a bit of a difference here. Like sure, 100 Thieves beat them, but I think it's pretty clear, at least in my opinion, that CLG is. I would feel pretty confident in saying they're the 4th best team in the league at the moment. I think their placement is well fine. Like, sure, you can argue JoJo's sick, sure, but it wasn't just JoJo that didn't look good this week. So I'm pretty comfortable saying they're the 4th best. Though of course I'm going to take that back and say they're trash, just so I can
Yes.
continue to see them win.
I was going to say that. Yeah. Don't give them too much
Yeah,
praise.
guys, like I said it a few weeks ago, and we've all been thinking it. The entire community's been thinking of it. Like we just don't actually talk about CLG. I will talk about CLG. We're not
Right.
gonna be like, yeah, CLG's great. Look at all these things.
Right.
Like none of it matters. It's all moot. Like they're literally the embodiment of counter logic.
Yeah,
Like
they
it's kind
are.
of crazy how consistent it is with this team. Like I'm pretty sure everybody was doubting them. If I was watching so many of the games live, and like a lot of the analysts, that's like nobody was believing in CLG. And then I think some people started to believe in their tiebreaker game, and they lost. Like I'm not even joking. It's like, well, they just went 3-0, guys. Like they're
My
gonna win their
gosh.
last one, right? And they didn't. Like this team defies logic, and I don't think like I'm just not gonna believe in them ever. Like even if they're a team that is like they're 3-0ing, destroying everybody, I'm not gonna believe them. Even if they're at like freaking MSI finals beating T1, I'm still not gonna believe in them because like that's just how it works, I guess. That's just how the magic is. So this team is hilarious. I will say I'm not sure if Cloud9 played. I saw L9 Blabber show up and L9
Yeah,
Emenes just
yeah,
freaking running it down
they were.
left and right over and over again, especially Emenes. When Blabber was like, "We've never lost on a leash Jace," I was like, "Are you sure, guys?" Because you guys are getting real close to losing. Um, Shout out to Palafox for like he did this last year too, but he's just playing Talia and just hitting blind like naked W's. Like no CC setup, no nothing. He just walks up to you and hits a naked W. I'm like, that's really hard to do. That's pretty cracked. So that was impressive. And then Luger for CLG, he's actually like my dark horse MVP. This guy is so cracked, dude. Oh my god. He plays insanely aggressively, but is very, very clean. Like he doesn't die a lot and he doesn't get caught out in weird situations. But he's super aggro. So I mean, CLG is super lucky to have a player like Luger, because like the rest of their team is super inconsistent and wild and just constantly fighting, and you have Luger, this very consistent guy who's able to play aggro with the rest of the team, but he just doesn't mess up. He doesn't mess up, and he plays just like I don't know, just amazingly well. So like I think the conversation is a lot about like Berserker, Prince, Doublelift, but
Hmm.
Luger like he just goes so unnoticed because of the team he's on. And honestly, this guy's so insane. So I really am have been enjoying Luger's performance this split.
All right, that's enough praise from
All
you
right,
there,
yeah.
Mitchell.
I mean,
Okay, just
he
keep it
sucks,
balanced. They're all
dude.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah,
They're,
keep it on the
whatever.
down low, man.
It's whatever, it's whatever because they play C9, so it's whatever. I'm
Yeah,
not, it's
Luger's a turd. Yeah, I don't know.
exactly.
Yeah.
So there it is. So, but speaking of, let's go to C9 because in my opinion, they are the best team. I think I'm just predicting it now. I think they're going to win the whole thing. Just that's what my brain is saying. But I do want to touch on them just a tad because, they had we have seen some weak spots with them. Particularly, Emenes has shown a little side of him. Yes, he went 3-10, I think, against FlyQuest. I mean, not FlyQuest.
NA
Yeah,
Jace,
yeah,
baby.
NA
CLG.
Big
Jace. I think
long.
yeah, it was
Sets in real
CLG.
quick. Yeah.
Right, but even the game against FlyQuest in their tiebreaker, even though they won that, he also went 0-5-9. So,
Yeah.
he definitely, and a lot of those were like really obvious, like, why are you inting? Like, they weren't like good deaths. They were just like inty NAJ's deaths. So, just whatever you want to say about Cloud9, I think they're still strong, but I do think that might be a potential, weakness there that maybe other teams can exploit if they can get them tilted, maybe. So, I don't know. What do
Yeah.
you think?
So besides MNS's game one, when he entered the league, which he died 6 times, he only
Mm-hmm.
died 7 times the whole time up until this weekend.
Mm-hmm.
In
Wow.
one game, he basically died 10 times. He died 15 times this
Yeah.
weekend, which was more than all the other weeks combined. Like, it was
Wow.
his NA Jace was not it. Like, I know, I think Ellis tweeted like, "Oh, I've never seen it just do so much damage while like feeding this are." And I'm like, true, this is kind of true, but at the same time, like, but the problem is like, do you know how much more damage the enemy team's doing because of all the gold you just like power
Mm-hmm.
fed? Like,
Yeah.
what are you doing? And you can't even argue that this didn't matter for C9 because this was for first. Like, winning
Sure.
the regular season and getting higher seed is important, especially for a team like C9 who can benefit a lot from like avoiding certain matchups. So I thought that was really weird. The rest for C9, like, Blabber also had a little bit of off week. I think Berserker cemented his first All Pro here. The tiebreaker game, like, he showed. I think one thing Berserker showed, which Prince literally doesn't have a chance to show, is that he could survive NA. Like, he's been here for long enough, for a year and a half. He played with
That's true.
rookie Winsome, and he played with Roll Swap Zen, and he still looked at this class for so long. Like, I think that the straight up matchup, like, I don't know why they let him get Draven, but holy moly, the class he showed in that game, he literally just 1v9. Like, that was the classic solo queue. And it is very rare, like Impact and a few others can show that level of skill and not deteriorate, right? So for now, he's got my vote for best AD carry, but obviously I do think Princess ceiling is higher. But like, I mean, how are you gonna hit your ceiling when you're practicing in NA?
I don't know. He picked Draven. I'm sold.
Yeah.
I saw that get locked
Let's
in,
go.
and I had the biggest smile on my face. I love watching that
That was
champion pro
sick. Yeah.
play. As much as unfun as it is to play against a solo,
Oh
watching
my
him pro
god,
play
dude.
is some of the most entertaining thing because
Mm-hmm.
it's going to be a banger of a game if a Draven's picked. There's just no way it's not. Especially when you're in a meta where it's like, oh boy, another Zeri Lulu game. Oh
Yeah.
boy, it's fun to watch. Zeri's gliding. Like, no, it's Draven. It's a war. There will be 40 deaths in this game. So I mean, I'm sold. I'm really happy they picked it, and especially the balls to pick that in a tiebreaker is like that's confidence, and I really liked that.
He did pick it against FlyQuest their first game too. So
Yeah, he
maybe it
picked it
was
against Azeri Lulu, and he picked
yeah.
it against Aphelios first pick, bro. I don't
There
know
you
how I
go.
feel about that from FlyQuest. They did the Aphelios first pick thinking they were clever, maybe, or maybe Prince just said, "Pick me this and let me die." I don't know. Let me like let me live in, let me play in peace or something. I
Let
don't
me
know.
lose in peace.
Let me lose in peace. Yeah, the Dardoch special. Like, why did they first pick Aphelios? It was so weird. I feel like FlyQuest has no idea what to do in the draft. I think they're completely lost. Cloud9, to their respects, I think like after their CLG game, like this, they were just done. They were like their day was like, all right, it's not one of those days. And their only person that was on was Berserker. Everybody else on C9 was very much like asleep or already like waiting to go to bed. But they still won the tiebreaker because Berserker really carried them over the edge. Because he is insane. If you follow LEC G2, they do a ton of Draven, and they're basically undefeated. They're like 6-0 on it, and now it gets banned against them every game. I think that once you have the Draven playstyle down and you have an ADC who can play it, it's like a must ban strategy. It's like really, really hard to beat. Um, Yeah, I think it's like I don't know what out there actually beats Draven right now. He's so strong, and he is mostly just dependent on how good the Draven player is, and if you can build like a decent comp around him. So, I wouldn't be surprised if we just start seeing first rotation Draven bans, especially if I think C9 CLG is the first matchup. I think it's pretty clear they scrim each other a lot. They both pulled out the Wukong Oriana combo, and they both pulled out the Jace Elise combo over this weekend. I think they scrimmed each other a bunch, and I think that they're gonna play each other in playoffs. Maybe Berserker gets Draven once. I do expect C9 to just like in the first round of the draft be blind picking Draven, even like no matter what the scenario is. That's how you force a Draven comp. That's how you force the Draven bans. That's how you say it doesn't matter what you play or pick. We will get Draven. We will snowball ahead, and we will like dumpster you in this game. Um, and then it's just really scary for C9, right? If you have to ban Draven every single game in this
Yeah.
meta, there are so many things that people want to ban. So very, very powerful stuff. Um, but yeah, I mean, Emenes, he's. I don't think we pick Jace anymore. I think that's done. I think it's
Yeah.
over, guys. I think we move on. I mean, they're definitely still gonna pick it, but they're gonna like shy away from it because it's gonna be a best of five. They're gonna play it once. Maybe they'll win. Maybe they'll lose. But we're like, didn't look good. Didn't look good. You've been in NA too long, buddy. It's too bad. But
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay, well, let's go to their rivals because, C9 and FlyQuest, they were fighting for that first place spot. And at the beginning of the split, FlyQuest looked like they were, going to run away with it. And then something happened. I think really, again, it kind of goes to when they swapped supports. And I don't know if that's the sole reason, but ever since they did, it seems like they've kind of been at a standstill. And so I want to get your thoughts on FlyQuest real quick before we talk about the whole MVP debate between Berserker and Prince. Because, I mean, unless you have another candidate in mind, I know a lot of people are talking about those two. But before we get into that kind of debate, FlyQuest to me, I don't know if they're still the number two team. I guess because everyone else is also kind of not doing well. And even though 100 Thieves performed well, I don't know if you could say they're a number two team. But I feel like that number two spot is kind of up for grabs because to me it looks like C9 is more polished than anyone else, and then everyone else has kind of showed some weakness. FlyQuest maybe will be the number two team, but from what I've seen, lately it doesn't look like they're performing how they used to, and so I'm kind of shaky on them going into the postseason. But what are your thoughts on FlyQuest?
Yeah, I mean, I said this last week. I'm gonna commit to it, even though it is a little shaky now. I think that yeah, they had a really bad week. They played poorly, but or the bad second half, honestly.
Mm-hmm.
But I think in playoffs with Song at the helm, like I've seen this like teams he's coached in best of five. I'm not as concerned. I still think they I still think they'll win, but at the very least, they deserve top two still. Like it's hard to keep focused throughout a whole regular split as dumb and boring as ours is in
Hmm.
terms of format, not in terms of games. The games are actually pretty good. So I'll give him still credit. I do think that like if Prince can't show up here, then maybe he just doesn't show up in playoffs because he's never been on a team
Yeah.
that's like gotten far in playoffs either. So maybe he's just like a really good regular season player, kind of like Vethio was last year.
Yeah.
I don't know what to think. I mean, they're 1-4 in their last 5. That's not good.
Mm-hmm.
Um, it's really hard to get a reading on it, and I feel like a big hit to them is honestly the meta shift. I think they're really good with like the tank jungler on Spica, and I just don't know.
Hmm. Yeah.
I these last couple weeks have not been very convincing on Spica in a carry role, and we've seen it previously before. It has felt a bit shaky, in my opinion. So I think that's coming back to bite them. And I don't actually know. I I don't know who to say would be our second place team. I think FlyQuest is still good, but if you want me to be honest, I might even say CLG or 100 Thieves might be better. But it's hard to tell. It really is.
Okay.
Yeah, I've been a FlyQuest hater, and it is all coming true. Everything that has been foretold has coming true. They're not good in the meta, and Prince looks tilted. I mean, last week on Delusion, right? He was just running it down. This week, I mean, they first pick up Felios. Dude, this guy seems so turbo like just tilted. I think he's done with NA. I mean, maybe. Like I cannot imagine he likes playing NA solo queue. I don't know how his scrims are going, right? But apparently FlyQuest has been losing a lot of scrims, and they actually have been losing scrims the entire time they've been here. They
Mm.
just show up on stage. I think if you lose in scrims but win on stage, you don't care, right? You're not tilted. You're fine. But if you're losing on stage and you're losing in scrims, I
Yeah.
think you can get tilted. I think you can get frustrating. Um, Ayla once again does not look good on support if engage or enchanter champions. So once again they played Zeri Lulu against C9 in the first game, and yeah, I mean Ayla just dies random. Like I don't even see him die. He just dies at the beginning of the fight. I'm like, oh, he just disappeared. Okay, like that's rough. For Prince. Um, yeah, I just think he's tilted. Like he doesn't look like he's playing very well. He doesn't look like he has any impact anymore. Like literally, he went from having the most impact as a player, being the center of attention, doing the most damage and taking the most brunt of like the pressure. And now none of that's happening. And he doesn't do anything with it. He's not getting pressured that much either. And I don't know what to say. Like it just he's not an impactful player on his team. I suspect that the Spica not really performing is like yeah, it's the biggest problem for this FlyQuest roster, and it's just jungle mid. Man, I feel like Vikla is not on the same page with anybody. Vikla is playing okay mechanically, right? I think he's showing up sometimes to the right places, but I highly suspect that like when it comes to especially like the laning phase, the jungle mid synergy is probably just not there. Um, like we started off this split with Spica getting ganks and first blood off almost every single game and killing somebody. This just doesn't happen anymore. Like he's either lost his touch, players are getting too smart. But honestly, you see in other games where junglers are getting really early first bloods and getting kills over and over again. Like think contracts, think closer, Blabber. Everybody's getting lots and lots of early kills. Spica
Yeah.
stopped getting those early kills.
Dude, even
So
Pyosha gets early kills, so
yeah,
like it's
Pyosha
not that
gets early
hard.
kills too. Yeah. So lots of things are just not lining up for FlyQuest all at the same time. And I think if you had a couple things not go your way, FlyQuest is a team with enough experience, a good coach that they should figure this stuff out. But it feels like everything is collapsing at the same time. Like jungle mid synergy's off, jungle meta's changing. Um, Prince is not playing to his best. Support change, right? They're confused in the meta in all sorts of way in all draft. Like this is really scary for them. And but we can't know, right? We still need to see them play their first best of 5. And who is it? They got to play Doublelift. They got to play 100 Thieves. I think this is the hardest test. The team with the most momentum going against the team who has everything to lose, right? FlyQuest is like the like supposed to be like above NA. They're supposed to be better than NA, right? They got Prince, they got Vikla, blah 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 blah, and they're about to lose to the NA special in Doublelift.
Let's
Like
go.
I think it's like the worst matchup you could possibly have for FlyQuest. They have no momentum. They're going against just like the fan favorites, like the underdog story of rising from like freaking 1-7 to 7-0 or something like that. Like this is gonna be hard for FlyQuest. And honestly, if they do pull it out, if they do figure everything out, oh my god, like that's gonna be great. Like I have no expectations for FlyQuest. I think they're gonna crumble, honestly. So if they do pull it out and they do pull me like prove me wrong, I'm gonna be very impressed. But nothing's lining up for them right now.
Yeah. So, I mean, do you think besides Berserker and Prince, is there like any other MVP candidate that you would put out there? Because I think that's what majority of people are thinking it would be between those two. But honestly, looking at their stat lines, I mean, they're top two in almost every category, but the difference between Berserker and Prince is pretty notable. I mean, I know stats aren't everything, but again, KDA, Berserker's got a 9.8 compared to a 5.3 KDA. Kill participation 71% to 66% Berserker favor. I mean, the death share percentage is less than 10% for Berserker. It's 15% for Prince. DPM, gold, all the stats. Prince is definitely, I mean, behind Berserker in every single category. So to me, if we were just talking about those two in a vacuum, and just maybe recency bias, but Berserker's been pretty good the whole season. So I would just have to say it has to go to Berserker. But did you guys have any differing opinions as far as MVP?
Are you talking about MVP or All Pro First Team AD Carry?
I'm thinking of just MVP.
It's MVP.
Okay,
Yeah.
then I would put Blabber up there too.
Okay.
Their research.
Yeah, that's what I was asking.
Playing out of his mind.
Yeah.
But you were only mentioning AD Carry, so I was like, oh.
No,
interesting.
because just for those two, that's a lot of names that pop up because the first half, a lot of people were saying Prince.
Yeah.
And then now people are saying Berserker. But that's why I want to say, so you say Blabber, you know, any other.
For me.
Yeah, that is true, Kevin. I'm so proud of you. You've turned. You've changed.
I've been as objective as a biased
That's
person
true.
can be, you know.
As a-
I was right about Blabber so many times. Before Crapper happened, I already predicted. I'm like, this guy doesn't have a brain. And he didn't.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they
He got
just
smarter
buffed
through the
Scuttle Crab,
years.
and you know he's fine.
There you
He's
go.
okay.
Give him a Mo buff Scuttle Crab. He's fine.
Yeah.
Or nerf it, I mean.
Yeah, I can see that. I mean, he's won it before. He is a big reason for the success on that team.
It's also spring. He wins it every spring.
It's
too,
true.
So.
It's spring. Okay. Any other candidates or want to throw in anybody else
I've
in
got
there?
a few.
All right, go ahead.
Honestly, I think it's pretty hard to give MVP to an AD carry in the first place, just because like MVP generally goes to roles that play the map and have more impact in the game in early game. Like sure, Berserker's really good. So is Prince. They have a lot of carry potential, but if you really look at the games, like okay, yeah, their AD carry went 10-0, but if you actually watch the game, it's like the jungler and the support are the ones who make that happen most of the time. Solo kills, sure, but usually those don't happen a lot. So I would be more inclined to give it to Blabber or Spica on those teams. And even then, I don't think it would be. I think it would be unfair to not include AD carries such as Doublelift and Luger, because sure, like it's really easy to give MVP to players who look good on good teams. Where, in my opinion, that's what All Pro is. But when you look at MVP, it's like most valuable player to your team. In my opinion, the MVP is very often not actually on the best teams. I think the MVP is often on those middle, like high middle tier teams where their team isn't that good, but they are really good on their team. We talked about Luger earlier. Doublelift this weekend. Obviously, there's recency bias there, so I would put Luger above Doublelift for this example, but I don't like the idea of just saying, "Oh yeah, this is the best AD carry. They're the MVP."
Well, I would say that I would just push back and say that I think you're right, but I don't think that's how it typically goes. I think MVPs
I
are
agree.
typically on the best team, but I get what you're saying, and I actually like those points that you made, like because those are definitely players who've made huge impacts on their team. So, yeah, good call.
I mean, Blabber and Spica, junglers get a lot of MVPs. I think for the early half of the split, Spica would definitely deserve it for the first half. I think for the second half, I mean, recency bias. I think they've talked a lot about it on the broadcast and on the dive. Um, recency bias is important. Actually, it actually matters. You should trend to be better in the end of the split than worse. Like if
It's
a
true.
team gets worse, I'm not going to be as interested in if a team gets better because playoffs are where it actually matters, and the end of the split is like, what do you have to show for the split?
Yeah.
What do you have to like end up as? And honestly, for Spica, him trending downwards, same with Prince, they're automatically out of the conversation for me personally. So I do like the Blabber or the Berserker angle. I think Blabber probably deserves it more than Berserker, but Berserker clutched it out in very important games at the end of the split. So like it's hard to weigh things like that in my head where it's like one or the other, right? So I do like the Berserker angle just because of how hard he clutched it for his team when it really mattered at the end of the
Yeah.
split. Same with Doublelift too. I do like the Doublelift angle and the Luger. I already said that. I mean, I don't think he's ever gonna get voted for, but that
Yeah.
would be my honest like MVP vote is Luger. And the last ones I wanted to just like kind of comment on that I think it's kind of sad that they disappeared. We were talking about River and Gory a lot
I
for
was gonna say that
MVP.
Yeah.
exact same thing. If they
Yeah,
didn't go 0-3, those are my votes.
yeah,
Mm.
like that's how hard recency bias hits, right? 0-3 at the end of the split where it matters the most. Losing to Dignitas, oh my God, River. That Kindred
Yeah.
play
Yeah.
at the end was not it. Full
Oh
health
my.
Kindred ulti, oh my God,
Oh
lost in
my
the game.
god.
That was rough.
Yeah.
Took us away the four-way tie.
Hmm.
Um, frustrating, but yeah, it would have been River and Gory. But my real MVP vote, guys, it's the most valuable player to all the other teams. It's Summit, baby. Summit is the most valuable player to the LCS, giving you free gold at to the 2.5 minute mark, game after game. I think Summit deserves it for sure. He
Yeah.
made every
Yeah.
jungler look so good. Every top
Uh-huh.
laner look so insane. Every team playing against Team Liquid, an absolute fiesta. So
I agree with you.
that's my
I
true
I was
MVP.
fully expecting you just to say Fake God, if you want me to be
I
honest.
know. That's what I was like.
expected Summit. It's always a top laner.
It's always a
It's
top
always an
later.
yeah. No, fake God, he's not in the LCS, so he gets a
He's
break.
been dethroned.
That's-
He's been dethroned. Okay. Well, did you guys have anything to say about Golden Guardians since we're on that? They did trend so bad. And EG did as well, but maybe there's a little more leniency because they were remote, and we all kind of said that they would probably poop the bed anyways this week. But again, it always to me still, even with that little caveat, it's still a little scary because they didn't win any games. So, I mean, talk about those two teams, whatever you want, because they were the winless teams who kind of fell in the standings after this week.
Yeah, I gotta say, Licorice, stay off of social media. Stay off of those programs. Like the second he went on the show and said, "I believe in myself. I think Renekton's good. I
Oh
think
my
that I haven't been playing that bad at all." The
Oh.
second he did that, man, it just looked like his soul left his body. Like he wasn't playing that well already, but like maybe his team was like, "What is he talking?" Like they watched the show, I was like, "What is he talking about?" I thought we had a mutual agreement that you were on the bus with us, and we're
Yeah.
just gonna take you. And
You didn't like Mikhail Sion, dude?
dude, if you practice that many 1v1s, how do you even get an idea for that? Like, where does
I
that
don't
come from?
know. I don't know. How do
Okay,
you? I
so
don't know.
so my like mini hate train aside, like I think that like you always have a chance to turn around for playoffs. I think the first matchup is the most important. This whatever, like honestly, it almost doesn't matter what happened the regular season even before, because like I just remember a lot of runs, including EG's most recently, where they were 9-9. They looked very mediocre. We're like they can't win 2 games in a row. Like they just can't do anything consistently, and then they just destroyed everyone, right?
Mhm.
Once they won their first
True.
sketchy match against TSM 3-2. So I think the team has the firepower. I have no idea in what universe, even tilted or not, how do you lose to Dignitas with the firepower they have in the mid lane. So that's really bad, but I think they still have a chance. I'm not going to put them as a potential winner, but I think they could surprise us, and I will bet that they will surprise us.
Who are we talking about? Golden Guardians
Golden
or EG?
Guardians.
Who are
Either
you talking
Golden
about,
Guardians or EG,
Golden
whatever you
Guardians.
want to
Golden
do.
Guardians. I don't
Okay, Golden
know
Guardians.
about EG because they were sick, so I have no
Yeah.
idea.
It's hard to say.
Yeah. Interesting. Interesting.
Alistair, do you have anything?
I'm trying to think of something to say, and I don't. I
He's
don't
thinking.
know. Like I've kind of said like JoJo was sick,
Mm,
sure,
EG. Mhm.
but that's also a bit cope.
Mhm.
The entire team just did not play well. Like, sure, Jojo had some bad plays, but that's not the entirety. They lost all 4 games. They just didn't play well altogether, and they haven't been playing well for a while now, in my opinion. As for Golden Guardians, if Licorice doesn't figure himself out, they have to play against either. Let's see, they have to play against the loser of CLG Cloud9. I
Yeah,
don't
Oh.
think they win that.
I think they're toast. I I'm on this. I'm on the Golden Guardians is toast train. It's kind of
Mm.
sad because it was gonna be really interesting to see this team actually do well, be good, and be another threat. I mean, they had like a huge ass win streak in the middle of the split.
Mhm.
And they beat a lot of top teams to get through that win streak. They beat C9 and EG during that win streak. So kind of sucks for them that I think the meta shifted and they have no idea what they're doing. Um, their last game, the game that decided it all for me especially, was the Dignitas game where they lost. It was very, very late game, very, very much about just like team fighting and just 5v5 running it down at each other. And you know what? There's no way Dignitas should be able to beat you in a straight up 5v5 Golden Guardians, especially when you have such an insane scaling comp, right? Jinx DK, Kindred, Scion. I think River was the big problem that last game. He had no stacks on Kindred. I think he had
Mhm.
like four in like the 45-minute game or 40-minute
Oof.
game it was. His ultis were actively losing him the team fights. If he didn't ulti in that last fight, I'm pretty sure Golden Guardians wins because so many of Dignitas were sitting there at low health at the threshold, not dying. So really unfortunate for them that their most clutch player in River is being kind of anti-clutch. He's kind of
Mhm.
causing them to lose the game instead. So that's rough. I do think the licorice, the Mikhail's build was really ambitious. I guess he wanted to prevent his teammates from running into Vagar cage. Like, was that it? You have a Tom
Ah.
Kench already. You
Yeah.
have a cleanse on your ADC, and you have a kindred ulti. So you built Mikhail's pretty much to avoid your teammates from walking into Vagar cage mindlessly. Um, I I'm pretty off the Golden Guardians train. I think they're very, very doomed. This last game from them was when all the pressure hit. It was when it was the most important to be good, and they could not be good. And I think that's just how sports goes, right? You can be good all you want, but if you're not good when the time is right, when it's most important, then it doesn't really matter. Doublelift, 100 Thieves, shitting themselves all year, but when it mattered the most, they were good. And that's what counts at the end of the day. So,
Maybe it was the nine win mental block, and it was
yeah,
like,
it had
let's
to
get
be.
the
We just
10th win,
we need
and they
one
couldn't.
more win,
Yeah.
guys. Just Dignitas. Just
It's
beat
just
them.
Dignitas.
Yeah.
The most cursed words they ever heard.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, Dignitas is eating good, man. They were breaking dreams. Same with Immortals, right? Um, and then I guess I didn't say much about EG. Kevin, did you want to talk about EG for a bit, and then I can go, or
Yeah,
do you have
yeah,
anything on
sure.
them?
I'll
Yeah.
start.
Actually, I just want to say one thing about the
Yeah.
Mikhail Sam before we move on. I
Yeah.
actually, so I think in this situation it's bad.
Yeah.
I actually think support items on tanks is very good. I don't know why he didn't build a Knight's Vow.
Yeah.
That would have been a
I,
lot better.
yeah.
But I think the thought process isn't bad. I think it was bad in this situation.
I think yeah, Mikhail Scion, it can make sense if like you're melting, right? Enemy has a bunch of tank busters, and like the only way you lose if like your ADC gets CC'd or something. But like they had like one targeted CC, it was Annie,
Yeah,
so yeah, not the right game for it. But
as
I
I said,
totally
situationally
I
good.
can
This
see it. Yeah,
situation bad.
yeah, definitely.
Yeah. So for EG, one thing I really noticed about Impact, I mean, he's still played okay, is that or not Impact? What am I talking about? That's FlyQuest. My bad.
Someday.
I got him mixed up because of
Yeah, he used to be on
the timing.
EG.
Either
Yeah,
way, for EG, I would say that JoJo not being there is the problem. Not everyone else playing bad. Like we've seen so many cases of teams where when your core player is gone, your shot caller, your playmaker, your aggressive young zoomer, whatever is gone, you just look like a different team. Like when Abadagi joined that old 100 Thieves team, like they became good all of a sudden. And it's not like he told his bot lane FBI to like have hands or Huhi to have a brain, right? It's because that pressure valve, either jungle or mid usually, when that gets upgraded and that has like a polarizing effect on the map, everyone has so much more room to breathe. Sometimes it might be shot caller. I don't know if JoJo's a shot caller, but he's definitely an aggressive player, right? So for me, that does matter. That being said, I will say that he played like absolute trash. Like I have never seen not never. I from a top tier NA player, I've never seen someone just like get hit by something. Like Tenacity was like, I'm like, wow, Tenacity lands such good barrels. And then I watched the fight
Yeah.
back on YouTube and I'm like, wait, actually no. This is just he's just hitting a dummy. Like the dummy's just sitting there waiting for a highlight play. It's like those like TikTok videos where you see the Lisa make them in the same play, but it's all staged. So to me, that's how I felt. I felt like JoJo was just phoning it in for them. I think the bot lane was actually okay. I thought that despite how bad everything was going, their laning phase was fine, but they definitely need help. My concern going to playoffs would mostly hinge on is Inspired in a meta that's good for him or not. I wasn't particularly impressed with the Gragas showing, uh, or the Lee Sin especially. I thought the Lee Sin was just nothing, but Lee Sin's been getting popular, guys. It got some buffs throughout this year, and some really good players out there are just smurfing on Lee Sin. So I think inspired teams live and die by like, is it his meta? It's the same with closer teams actually. These European junglers that are really good, I'm fine with them being one dimensional, but that also means that if it's not their dimension, they're gonna look bad. So I don't know what's gonna end up happening in playoffs, but Inspired would be the actual player to watch for me because as long as JoJo's not been sick for 3 weeks straight, he can't be worse.
Yeah.
I've kind of said my piece on them. I feel like I think they're kind of doomed, to be honest.
Yep.
I mean, they're. I hope I'm wrong. 'Cause it would be a damn shame just to see them collapse like this, especially after it was kind of a similar story last year. But they have to. I think their best chance. I think they need to hope for FlyQuest to lose to 100 Thieves because they're gonna play the loser of that matchup. We already saw this weekend what happens between those two teams, between 100 Thieves and EG. I think they need to hope that FlyQuest loses.
Yeah. I'll make it quick. I think EG is pretty doomed. I
There it is.
I think
There
they're
it
mental
is.
booms. I mean, COVID is real. Brain lag is real. We don't know what it is for JoJo, but I imagine he's not feeling very healthy right now. That is a big deal. I also think, yeah, they're a bit confused in the meta. I mean, FBI just doesn't have the Danny effect, right? He gets really fed. He gets a great matchup. He gets a lot of time to free hit, and he doesn't carry the game when it matters the most. Like, your mid laner is faltering. You have a tank top laner, tank jungler. It's all on FBI to carry. He can't carry in the super clutch hype moments. So it's just not the Danny effect. And I mean, let's be real, guys. Like Danny not being there, the whole drama, everything, that's got to be in their heads. They're all
Yeah.
fucky in the brains. Like JoJo could actually just be sending it for Danny. Like for all we know, it is rigged, guys. All of EG is saying, screw EG, we are going to lose on purpose for Danny. We don't know. And you know what? I'm all in for it, okay? MVP JoJo also. We get 2 MVPs
Let's
this year.
go.
JoJo and Summit. JoJo sacrificing his life for Danny. I'm all for it. That's all we have to say about that.
I will say that I don't know. I I think they should have just rested him this week. I don't know how he's doing in his recovery with COVID, but I said this last week. I think we all kind of mentioned this, but they should have just. I mean, there was really no matter anyways, right? Like if I'm EG, rest your like star player really, and just let him fully recover. That's
no, he
my
was
thought.
fine though. He talked to
He was?
Nicole, and Nicole
Okay.
asked him and nicely, and he said, "Yeah." So
Yeah, Nicole was like, "So you're fine, right?" And Joe's like, "No, no,
Yeah,
no." I was like, "Oh,
Kevin,
okay, so
come
you're
on.
fine." Joe's like, "Yeah, I'm fine."
Do we really want to
I'll
take
play.
Nicole's word for it? Okay. Either way,
No, I'm
let's.
taking JoJo's word for it.
Oh, Joe. Okay, Joe. So JoJo said that, but I'm saying, but do you want to believe anything that he says, she says? You know what I'm
If
saying? Like,
Ryoma played this week, guys, do they go 0-4? No way, they go 0-4,
I mean, they
man.
don't do
Like,
worse.
They like
Yeah, well, yeah.
You're not wrong.
Well, yeah, you're right about that.
No,
but
seriously though, like if Roma's in there, there's no way they lose to IMT in like game 1, guys. Like Jesus Christ,
Yeah.
JoJo was actually a liability this
Yes,
weekend.
Yeah.
absolutely.
So, yeah.
All right. Well, either way, I don't really have a read because this week was a wash. So it's really they're hopefully putting it together during their scrims or whatever until the playoffs start. But let's go to predictions because this is the exciting part. First up, we've got CLG versus Cloud9. CLG did beat Cloud9 this past week, but hey, I'm keeping it neutral. I'm not saying anything. But what are your predictions for this series, Kevin? And games. Give your
my
games too.
predictions are Cloud9. Their propensity to play Draven will win, and it's 3-1. Like the Draven's super scary for draft. So
Yeah.
Cloud9.
Okay.
Same.
Alistair. 3-1.
3-1.
I am 3-2 C9.
Okay.
Yeah, 1 game difference. Whatever.
Okay.
I want the 5 games. I don't care.
You said 3. You said 3-0 or 3?
3-2.
3-2.
All right. Well,
5-game series for the
so
Cloud9.
I'm going to say C9 3-0, but for the reason that will not be
hey,
named
the
here.
Magic is smart. You can't
think it
outplay the
knows?
Magic. Yeah, it knows. Just say 3-0, bro. Just move on.
Okay, I'm going to say for.
See, you just ruined it. Now they're gonna get 3-0'd.
I'm so
Dude,
confused.
we were all ready for it, and then you were like, guys, it's
the
all according to
CLG
plan,
Magic.
right?
Wink,
Art!
You
wink,
can't
right?
plan for CLG. You can't
Okay.
plan for them.
The
Three-
Magic
three-
is smarter. It knows the wink. Okay.
It knows. It knows. Okay, 3-0 Cloud9, easy.
Yeah,
That's
yeah,
it.
there you
That's
go,
all I'm
there you
saying.
go.
3-0 Cloud9.
CLG sucks.
CLG
Alright,
is
yeah, let's go on.
terrible. All right, 100 Thieves FlyQuest.
I say FlyQuest. I think 3-2.
Oh shit.
Yeah, I've been saying
FlyQuest.
FlyQuest since forever.
That's true.
Alright,
You
stick
have.
to
You
it.
have.
Stick to it. I'm down.
I'm going 3-2 100 Thieves.
Oh
Yes, let's
snap.
go.
Yeah, I mean, I'm all in, right? So I don't really have a choice either. I'm
That's true.
100 Thieves. 3-1, baby.
Let's
I think they're
go.
gonna take it to him.
I'm saying the same exact thing as you, Mitchell. I think
Oh,
the
hell
stars have
yeah.
aligned for us. I think we're on
Yes.
this boomer train, and I'm all for it, man. 3-1,
Dude.
100 Thieves, man. You said it. The momentum is in their favor.
Momentum is
I don't
there,
know if there's
yeah.
enough time for FlyQuest to adjust to, with the things that
They
you
had
mentioned.
less than a week.
Yeah,
Sunday.
and look, sometimes the easy fixes, like you said, that we see outside as fans, sometimes the easiest
Oh,
fixes,
yeah.
they don't do it.
No, we could talk about TL. Everybody
Exactly.
and their mom
Exactly.
is yelling, engage supports, and
Come
Corey
on,
J is
Core.
like, so Lulu, right?
Yeah, my
I
gosh.
heard you wanted me to play some Lulu.
That's what I'm saying, man. That's what I'm saying. So even though I think there might be adjustments they can make, I don't think they're going to do it. And I think 100 Thieves is taking this win. Kevin, any thoughts on that Team Liquid real quick? I know you
Yeah, I think that
He
I think that unfortunately, like their rookie players just weren't it, and maybe they can stick to them, but that's fine. But like as far as I can tell, they're not going to win next split if they play with those two.
Yeah.
I could see why they would win in the academy, but they don't have it, guys. They really don't. And yeah, Summit's really bad too. He's an import.
Summit's
Get rid of him too.
terrible.
But
Yeah.
if you're really gonna rebuild, like you either find a whole new core or you stay with the core JJ and maybe Pioshik and see where that takes them. Because Pioshik, with how bad their team was, he did have good games. It's just his bad games look terrible, right?
Yeah.
His good
Right.
games were really
Yeah.
impressive, actually. Honestly, they could just never string 2 wins together. You can't have that many coin flippers. Having coin flippers is fine on a team, but you can't have 4 of them. That is
4
just
of
dumb.
Put it in
Otherwise, Core's
Put it
few
in
melee games were good. You could see why he's such a good. Like they literally double ban him sometimes, and I'm just like, bro, guys, this is important. Like he has value to a team still.
My
He might not
gosh.
be the best. He might not even be top 2, right? But he's still valuable to Team Liquid to attract players, right? So rebuild. Choose
Yeah.
someone else. I'm excited for their new choices. If they stick with the rookies, like I want to respect it, but like these are some of like, especially mid lane. Jan maybe can be fine with a real mid lane, but holy moly, you can't keep both.
Yeah, I we're talking about TL. I gotta give my quick spiel on it too. Like, yeah, you gotta rebuild, all right? Here's also the problem that they funneled themselves in. I'm pretty sure Pioshik doesn't speak English. So if you want to rebuild, then you are looking at maybe replacing an entire roster. Because like if you want to replace Summit,
Mm.
you may end up with a top laner who can't talk to their jungler. If you want to replace Harry, You may never know with a mid laner who can't talk to their
It's
jungler.
true.
So you might have to replace the jungler and the top laner, or jungler and mid laner, and then all of a sudden you're just looking at replacing all your entire top side. So if you're replacing
Yeah.
somebody, you either need to get someone who's Korean speaking or replace more people than just the one person. So that's the real problem that they've dug themselves in with the Korean speaking roster. I also think, you know what? I just have to blame this split was like Core JJ's fault. I know he played probably fine and decently well, but the fact that you're like the star player on your team, the
Hmm.
franchise player, one of the best engaged supports in the goddamn world, and you
Mm-hmm.
choose to not play it in your elimination match, I don't care if it's draft, I don't care if it's Marn telling you to pick Lulu, you should have some agency. You should have some say. I'm playing Engage and I will carry this freaking game because
Yeah.
it's LCS regular season. Corja J should not be able to carry a game by himself. Like this, he's that good supposedly. If you don't do that and you let your rookies down, you have a very coin flippy top lane, right? You're supposed to be the rock. You're supposed to be the star and you put yourself on Lulu, you're putting yourself on the bench, bro. I don't care.
Yeah.
So I blame Cordio J 100% for the split. It sucks that Harry's bad and he's having a rough rookie year. He's a rookie. It's like he gets some leeway. Cordio J gets no leeway. I he is one of the best players in LCS, but when you do stuff like this, you start to get that title taken away from you. People have to criticize you really hard. You're no longer the best player in the LCS anymore. There's a lot of other people that have shown up. You have fallen down. So next split, if they keep Core JJ, I hope that he gets his shit together and they sign a new contract. And Steve is like, Core JJ can play with Team Liquid only on engaged supports, and that's in the contract. That's
Yeah.
it. That's
Write it
done.
right
No
in
more
there.
Lulu. No more Yumi.
That's the
No more
thing.
Nami.
Like,
I'm done.
the
It's
meta
over.
shifted for his favor, and
Yeah.
there was a while where it was like, okay, he's kind of like has his hands tied behind his back because engaged supports weren't it for so long. But it
Yeah.
shifted and everyone else adjusted. And we even said it. Like, I even said my prediction is predicated on the fact that Core picks Engage. I mean, Summit, for his part, picked tanks, picked
he
what
did.
we were saying to do. But good gosh, when he picked Lulu, I was like, it's over. And it's
Yeah.
over. Like, and it really was. So I wholeheartedly agree with you on that. But you know what? They've got some time to think it over and hopefully figure something out. But
I'm on the roster change. I think just
yeah,
burn it
change
all
it
up.
all.
Just throw it out. Like Summit is not worth investing in, and as soon as you get rid of Summit, you
Yeah.
might as well just get rid of the entire Korean top side.
Well,
So
we don't know what the
Mm.
contracts look like. I don't know if there's any like guarantee where they have to keep them, but I
I
mean, if
said in
they
the
could, then
Discord,
yeah.
get Wonder. Wonder's sitting on the bench doing nothing. Get Wonder in top lane.
Let's
Bwipo in the
go.
Top lane
jungle.
Whippo jungle. Okay,
Yeah,
you're
and
speaking my
then
language.
random ass mid laner. APA in Academy is apparently doing well for Team Liquid Academy. Just throw
AP
it
is
all
good.
in there. Yeah,
Yeah.
APA is good.
I think he's good.
Tell Yeon to have less of a little ego, because I swear to God, this guy makes so many ego plays that it's like gone straight to his head. Like you can trash talk is fine, but if you play ego, you will
Yeah.
lose if you're
Yeah.
bad. And unfortunately, he's kind of bad. So sucks
All
for
right.
Yeon. Yeah.
All right. Well, we got to start wrapping it up, but before we do, any
We didn't.
like meta stuff or anything that you want to talk about? Yeah, go ahead, Mitchell.
Oh, never mind. Did we do our predictions? We did. I
Yes.
am so tired.
We made it so fast.
That's how you know this
We
is a
made
live
it so-
recording.
I did. Yeah, I predicted 100 Thieves. Okay, we're good. I remember.
To be
Yeah.
fair,
Okay.
it is Tuesday. I was gonna say it is Monday, but that's not. It's Tuesday.
it's
So
not.
no
We don't
excuse
know
for you, my
anything,
friend.
guys.
I just forgot. Yeah.
All right. Well, did you guys have any final thoughts or anything?
Yeah. Final thoughts. Rest in peace, Ablazeolive. You were actually
Oh,
pretty
yeah.
good for like at least one or two splits, and
Mhm.
honestly, NA just can't nurture like our mid-tier talent
That's
to
true.
become top tier.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's just depressing to me.
Yeah.
He went through every hell
he did.
North America had for him. He
He was in
went
academy
through
for like 3-4 years. Like
he went
Yeah.
through original
5 years, I think.
original challengers, then he went through Academy hell, and then he went to Golden Guardians hell, and then IMT hell. Like
Yeah.
I feel so bad for him. It's really depressing story. And I wish him the best.
Yeah, it's rough for him. He was definitely like one of those hot talents back in the day when like he was on TSM Academy. This is when TSM was actually good. He was like under Bjergsen. He was considered the best academy mid laner to come out of LCS. And he was in that bunch where it was like he would go back to academy every now and then, and he was just clearly too good for academy.
Hmm.
But he was just on that brink of like not being good enough for LCS, not being developed enough, not being bought into enough. And yeah, it is kind of a tragic story for him that it didn't work out. But time time heals all wounds, I guess. I think he'll figure something else out in life. Like he's clearly very good at like working hard and just
Yeah.
persevering. I think he's been in the scene for 8 years. 5 of it was in the amateur scene, and 3 was in an actual LCS pro. So, um, he can work very hard and accomplish a lot still. So won't be at LCS anymore, but I do wish him the best of luck. Yeah.
Yeah, and the thing is, even someone like Golden Glue, he had his shot. He had chances to be on
He was
top
on
teams.
Liquid, dude.
Yeah.
He was on
Blaze
C9,
Olive
yeah.
never got a chance, it seems like. He never got a shot, and that is the sad part. And looking at his tweet that he made, he does want to, it says he wants to move on to new things, but the things that he moved on to is like, it could be any of these, and he listed like a huge list, but a lot of them were like coaching, casting, so it looks like he still wants to be on the scene. I think, in my opinion, I said this in the Discord, I think it just didn't help that he's had enough, man. I think it's really hard because if you're on a crap org and you're just not winning and you're still grinding as hard as you can, at some point, like maybe it's just done. You're just done. And so maybe he wants to stay on the scene in some capacity, but I just think that him being in that org, he just needs to get out. So I do wish him the best as well. It's very unfortunate, but I hope to see him around. I hope he starts, I don't know how he is as a caster, but just to have him on the broadcast, just like the other pros, right? Like to give insight would be amazing to have him. So hopefully we'll still see him around. You know what I mean?
Make it
So.
work.
Yep. So, well, that's going to do it for us. Appreciate you guys again, Kevin, Mitchell, Alistair, for always sharing your wise thoughts. But until next time.
Winning.
I thought Mitchell was going to sneeze. Yeah, double lift. Let's go all the way. But until next time, guys, enjoy your climb on the Rift. Try not to be too toxic. And we'll see you on the next episode. Peace.